Welcome to the channel Lights on Literature. This video lesson is separated into three parts. In the first part, you will learn some basic definitions and characteristics of language. The second part deals with a few elementary facts about language, and the third part deals with major theories of the origin of speech. First, let us try to understand what is language. Let us begin with the definition by David Crystal. First, any language is a system of communication within a group. The participants of the group express themselves using spoken or sign or written symbols. Some of the major functions of language include communication, the expression of identity, emotional release, play, and imaginative expression. Let us see few definitions of language. The first definition is from Henry Sweet, an English phonetician and language scholar. He says, language is the expression of ideas by means of speech sounds combined into words. Words are combined into sentences. This combination answering to that of ideas into thoughts. In this definition, the stress is on thought. The second definition is from American linguists Bernard Bloch and George L. Traeger. They say that a language is a system of arbitrary vocal symbols by means of which a social group cooperates. In this definition, the stress is on the word arbitrary in legitimate way. Let us see some characteristics of language. Every physiologically and mentally typical person acquires in childhood the ability to make use as both sender and receiver of a system of communication that comprises a circumscribed set of symbols, example, sounds, gestures, or written or typed characters. In any language, the spoken symbol set consists of noises resulting from movements of certain organs within the throat and mouth. In signed languages, these symbols may be hand or body movements, gestures, or facial expressions. The written symbol set consists of alphabets, diacritical, and other punctuation marks. The focus here is on a system of communication. Communication is the process of sending and receiving messages through verbal or non-verbal means. In any communication, there needs to be a minimum of two persons, a sender and a receiver. The sender will have a purpose or a motive behind her message. The receiver has to interpret the message and understand, and sometimes the receiver passes on the feedback to the sender. Different systems of communication constitute different languages. The degree of difference needed to establish a different language cannot be stated exactly. No two people speak exactly alike. Still, you are able to recognize different voices over the telephone or a radio broadcast. This is possible because you can identify the difference. The key is the difference and the degree of difference. For example, if you cannot completely understand a system of communication, then it becomes a different language. There might be different systems of communication of the same language, which might hamper but do not prevent mutual comprehension, and they are called dialects. And you might recognize individual specific different language patterns, which are called idiolects. Typically, people acquire a single language initially, their first language, or native tongue, the language used by those with whom or by whom they are brought up from infancy. Your mother tongue is a natural language you learn. Any language you learn by using some effort becomes an acquired language. Let us move to the second part of this video lesson. We will learn some elementary facts about language. You should keep in mind that the language is primarily something that is spoken and not written. Written language is also important as it is an instrument to know about the past. Written language is just a substitute for speech. Language is always evolutionary and not static. Change is constantly going on. For example, if we compare a passage from Chaucer's the Canterbury Tales with the English that is spoken today, you would know the change English has undergone in the past 500 years or so. If you go still farther to Anglo-Saxon writings, they will be very different from Chaucer's language. Language is the distinguishing characteristic of man, and it differentiates man from other animals. Even though animals communicate through vocal noises, human language has immense creativity and infinite productivity. If you take honeybees, they communicate through their waggle dance, but it has only one purpose: to indicate where the food is to the fellow bees. Let us move into the third part of this video lesson. Let us talk about the theories of the origin of speech. The first one is the bow-wow theory. This is man's attempt to imitate some characteristic sound of the creature or the object he was referring. For example, the thing that distinguishes a dog from any other animals is its barking. It is the animal that says bow wow, and so he starts calling it a bow wow. This is imitative tendency. Many words have their roots seem to go back to very ancient times. In snake, we hear a hissing sound. In the word wind, there is an imitation of the whistling of the gust. In many European languages, the word for water has a liquid sound in it. This is also the onomatopoeic element which can be seen in words such as puff, whine, babble, etc. The next is the ding-dong theory. This theory is associated with the eminent German scholar and philologist Max Muller. Man has a sense of rhythm which is related to the rest of the universe, which is also essentially rhythmical. This theory also falls back on imitation, but the imitation is here of the movement rather than of sound. For example, while observing a certain rhythm in the purling of the stream or the swaying of the trees in the wind, early man ding-donged phonetically, partly as accompaniment and partly as imitation. Accompaniment is the key shift here. Butcher puts it as a simple rhythmical hum or chant, keeping time with a step in walking or the hand in work. One may find the same in the Savage War dance, the medieval ballads, and in the sea chanties. Even the habit of whistling while working can be considered another example of this theory. Next is the Pooh-Pooh theory. This theory traces all forms of speech to emotional interjections evoked by pain, surprise, pleasure, wonder, etc. For example, at first, Pooh-Pooh was just an exclamation implying contempt or disgust. Later, this meaning is acquired by implication. Then the verb to poo-poo was formed. This theory moves the origins of speech from brute noises to a rational approach. The fourth theory of the origin of speech is the gesture theory. This theory was advanced by Wilhelm Wundt and later restated by Sir Richard Paget in his book Human Speech. The earliest method of communication was by sign and gesture made with the hands. Such a language was natural and spontaneous. Even today, we use many gestures while speaking by moving our hands. The interesting fact is that every hand gesture is accompanied by a corresponding movement of the tongue, the lips, and the jaws. And in the course of time, the hand gesture was replaced by the corresponding tongue, lip, jaw movement, which is nothing but a shift from sign language to spoken language. For example, in many languages, the sound al, the sound al, denotes the idea of up or a height. When you pronounce al, the tongue rises so that the tip of the tongue points towards the top palate. This is an accompanied movement. To denote the idea of up or height, one would raise his arm. The same way the tongue also raises. Sir Percy Nunn had put forth few other interesting ideas. In the words I and me, the lips are drawn in towards the speaker. In the words you or thou, The movement of the lips is towards the person addressed. In the words here and there, a sense of directional difference can be noted. What did we learn so far? Some basic definitions of language, elementary facts of language, 4 major theories of language: the bow wow theory, the ding dong theory, the Pooh-Pooh theory, and the gesture theory. What next? To take a quiz on what you have learned so far, go to the comment section. You will find a link to the quiz. Subscribe to this channel to get updates on upcoming videos. Continue learning.